January 6th was a very interesting day because they don't report it properly. People in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity.
My kids didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts.
I call them the J6 hostages. Not prisoners, I call them the hostages.
There'll be a lot of pardons and commutations of J6 defendants, January 6 defendants under your administration?
Yes, absolutely. They were there with love in their heart. That was an unbelievable, and it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day.
That is a brand new Biden-Harris campaign ad, and its message is spot on, in my opinion, because it's comparing what Trump says and his constant barrage of lies to what the actual facts of the situation are. My name is Suri Crowe, and you're watching the MeidasTouch Network. All right, I don't think that we can repeat enough exactly what is at stake in this election. I see in the comments sometimes people saying, why is MeidasTouch repeating or reporting the same story with different hosts or contributors? And the reason is because we can't assume that everybody watches every single video on the MeidasTouch Network in the same way that you can't assume that, like, my language is news. I, as a reporter, would show up in maybe the noon newscast, the 4, the 5, the 6, and so on through the night. But we may have different viewers reporting the same story. And that's how we make sure that the information gets to as many people as we can. And we are in a code red situation right now. We really are. I mean, democracy, we've been saying this for a while, but it's been true for a while, is she's literally hanging by a teeny tiny little thread. So we need to get the word out to as many people as possible. And that's why it's so important to share these videos. And speaking of repetition, Donald Trump is a master of propaganda. He repeats the same lies over and over and over again to his cult followers until they are so on board, they will go to the degree of engaging and inflicting violence on his behalf. So those of us on the side of facts, freedom, and reality, we have got to fight back with the truth and the evidence. We have to constantly fight the lies with the truth and the evidence and the facts. That, my friends, is how we win. All right. Now, as Americans right now, newsflash, we're actually witnessing and living through a slow rolling coup. It did not stop on January 6th of 2021. Make no mistake, this assault on democracy has been continuously imploding and exploding since, honestly, before January 6th, as we're now seeing in court documents, the planning that went into Trump's insurrection. This past week in federal court, one of Trump's lawyers justified to the judge the hypothetical use of elite special operations force SEAL Team 6 by the ex-president in a potential hit on a political enemy. I almost fell over when I heard this because I live in the land of the SEALs. I've been very close to the SEAL team community for a long time. I've covered SEALs, SEAL Team 6 specifically. When they deploy, it's usually because they're the good guys, not a weaponized force in a banana republic assassination plot against Trump's opponent. That is truly chilling.
Immunity argument where his lawyers argue he could order the assassination of political rivals. Trump comes outside to threaten violence. He said there will be, quote, bedlam in the country if he doesn't get immunity from prosecution for his crimes. It's the same thing he did when he told his supporters before January 6th, be there, will be wild. Then he told them Mike Pence didn't have the guts to do what needed to be done. Like, we all understand what's happening here, right? All of us. You think it's a coincidence? A coincidence that this week, after he said there would be bedlam, there was a bomb threat directed at the judge in his New York trial? I don't know. Maybe, but I do know. Then when you look at the worst case, most intolerable incursion of essentially fascistic violence by the MAGA faction, combined with Trump's legal arguments in court, you have to consider that we are already living with a version of it in America today, every day.
He outlawed political opponents and had roughly 11 million Jews and others exterminated. The paths to these dictatorships have been paved with claims echoed by Donald Trump. And it is beyond astounding that his ostensibly highly educated attorney walked into a court of law and made the legal case for political violence without consequences. And outside of Chris Christie, nary a word of condemnation was uttered by the Republican Party. Honestly, the media didn't do much better, chalking up this argument to a seemingly bold idea or a generic immunity claim.
Trump's intimidation tactics and terror squad mentality is sadly quite effective to shut up critics within his own party. He elicits threats against Congress members within Republican ranks who dare go against him. You see this over and over again. We're watching it right now with MAGA Mike Johnson. Now MAGA's coming against him because he dared, work with the Democrats. Trump is a thug. This is mob boss rule. And the violence has been so normalized within the MAGA cult to get what their leader wants. Like, they're on board with whatever their leader wants. Listen to this clip from a conservative and evangelical writer by the name of David French. And he has been highly critical of Trump.
The assaults on my family have been overwhelming just as a writer. I have a multiracial family. And so they have gone after my youngest daughter in the worst way imaginable.
That was back in 2016. Today, French, who's still conservative, staunchly conservative, and also staunchly anti-Trump, wrote in the New York Times that things are even worse. Quote, 8 years of bitter experience have taught us that supporting Trump degrades the character of his core supporters. Never before have I seen extremism penetrate a vast American community so deeply, so completely, and so comprehensively.
I witnessed the rudeness and aggression in the MAGA faithful when I covered the first Trump campaign back in 2015 and 2016. My photographer and I were chased at times more than once by pro-Trump people, even though at the time I was working for a conservative news outlet. And as a freelancer, when I went to cover Biden's inauguration in 2021, right, a couple weeks after Jan 6, I had comments on some of my social media as I was putting reports out from MAGA mobsters threatening to put me literally in their rifle crosshairs. That is stochastic terrorism. My more progressive neighbors often tell me they're nervous to put up yard signs for their political candidates or causes because they are afraid of what our pro-Trump neighbors will do. Laura Ann Carlton, this lovely woman, was shot to death because she dared to fly a pride flag on her California store. This is not freedom. We are the hostages, not the lawless January 6th insurrectionists. It is American democracy that has a gun to its head.
Literally since yesterday, Andrew, since I listened to this hearing, my jaw dropped. Yep. I would just love to get your unfiltered reaction to it and to the brilliant questioning by these three judges.
Yeah, well, particularly, I mean, all three were great. We've talked about Judge Pan.
Judge Pan was awesome.
Was a standout. I think what you're focusing on is so important, which is the normalization of crazy. If you go back to when Trump said I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, and think about what I thought about it. I just couldn't believe my ears. Yeah. What person, not politician, what person says that?
Right.
Then add a politician running to be president of the United States. And I was thinking, this is just unbelievable. And we just had an argument in the courts that had legal dressing up of essentially that argument.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, there's no way it's going to win, but it was normalized in the sense that there was sort of a respectful sort of back and forth as to why it is wrong. And that in some ways that's a testament to the rule of law, but it is also sort of a testament to sort of how much Trump gets us used to the crazy.
And the crazy continues to metastasize amidst the Republicans. Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York, who, by the way, ran as a moderate. She ran as a moderate. She is now fully MAGAfied. She told NBC News recently that she cannot commit to certifying the results of this next presidential election. Listen to this clip.
What about 2024? What about 2024?
We will see if this is a legal and valid election. What we're seeing so far is that Democrats are so desperate, they're trying to remove President Trump from the ballot. That is a suppression of the American people, and the Supreme Court is taking that case up in February. That should be a 9-0 to allow President Trump to appear on the ballot, because that's the American people's decision to make this November.
And the matter is, of course, halted pending that appeal, as you say. But just to be very clear, I don't hear you committed to certifying the election results. Will you only commit to certify the results if former President Trump wins? Does that mean if former President Trump wins?
No, it means if they are constitutional.
All right, she is preposterous. President Biden has had absolutely nothing to do with any of the many court cases that are pending against Donald Trump. And these MAGA mobsters refuse to accept the results of the last election. They are still trying to litigate this, even though the results of 62 lawsuits showed that Trump lost, that Donald Trump definitively lost. And so far, the only election fraud evidence that surfaced is on the behalf of the Republicans. Their fake elector schemes and plots in states like Michigan, Georgia, and Arizona, to name a few. And by the way, these same MAGA Republicans are the ones who are copping guilty pleas. They are copping guilty, the Ken Chesebros, et cetera, in admitting to the wrongdoing they were involved in. That is where the election fraud is. It's with the MAGA crowd, not on the pro-democracy side. That's just pure gaslighting. And as for Stefanik's argument that Democrats are ignoring the Constitution, that is laughable on its face. I recently did a breakdown of the 14th Amendment, Section 3 of the Constitution, and how it is clear, if you were looking through originalist and textualist lenses, that Donald Trump is not eligible to run for office again. I'm not really sure where the Supreme Court is going to come out on this. They purport on the far right side of the bench, the Justice Thomas's, Alito's, Gorsuch's, Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh, they purport to be originalists and textualists. Let's see how that all plays out when they do make a decision on this 14th Amendment case. And as for those, and some on the progressive side who say, well, the people should decide, well, we already did. That's what happened in 2020. The people decided whether they would accept or reject a second Trump presidency, and he lost. And he couldn't accept defeat, so he incited a violent insurrection, and 9 people died. More than they did at Fort Sumter at the beginning of the Civil War. 9 people died because of the violence that MAGA mobsters caused on January 6th. So I think we have to prepare for the idea that Trump is not going to accept any rendition of defeat. This time he is running to stay out of prison. He is a true psychopath, and I do not use that term lightly. I'm like a psychology nerd, as a matter of fact, but Trump has no empathy, no remorse, no integrity. He will lie, steal, cheat, manipulate his way into office if that's what it takes in order for him to win. And he does not care, literally, about who gets hurt in the process, including those who are in his inner circle. Just look at the collateral damage of anyone associated with Donald Trump. So, my friends, if you are on the fence about whether you are going to vote for President Biden, please get on board. These are different times than previously. I get it. You may have policy differences, big differences with the Biden administration. There are things I don't agree with either, but voice them. That's what happens in a healthy democratic republic. You're able to voice and peacefully protest your disagreements with the administration. But if Trump gets back into office, or anybody on the Republican side, we can pretty much kiss that goodbye. Joe Biden is right now the only viable candidate who is truly pro-democracy. So, I mean, it's not, you can't both sides. Like, our choices are fascism or democracy. Fascism or democracy. It is that simple. That's why people like me, I mean, I would have never spoken out about political candidates before, but you can't both sides, like fascism and the ugliness and the stochastic terrorism that's going on with the democracy movement. You can't. So just like in 2020, I do believe that we are in for a rocky ride, but I believe that we can land this plane and prevail. There are more of us than there are of these violent fascists, but it is an all hands on deck approach. I'm having conversations with friends who don't think that the situation is that bad. The people say, oh, well, both parties are awful. No, that's just not true. One are fascists and removing freedoms by the hour, and the other people under a giant umbrella, from super progressive to, Republicans who have been excommunicated by their party, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzingers, et cetera. But we are all under the umbrella of we love America and we want to save our democracy. And we also need to accept that the Republican Party is not about democracy and really hasn't been in quite a long time. And we're seeing the ravages of what's been going on really since the Reagan years. What we are living through is not normal, so please don't numb out. We can do this. I know it can feel exhausting. Take a break, but get back in the fight for democracy. It's a team sport. I mean, I hope that a lot of you are realizing how precious democracy is. It is something that we have to actively engage in and participate in. So I know we can do this. I do. So anyway, my name is Suri Crowe. Thank you so much for listening today. And I hope to see you back here on the MeidasTouch Network very, very soon. Peace.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.